Okay guys, today we are going to talk about comparing fractions. Now when we compare fractions, that means we may have a fraction like 2/3 and we may have a fraction like 3/5. And I want to know which fraction is bigger. Well, sometimes just by looking at the fractions, I can't tell which one's bigger. And since they have different denominators, this one has a denominator of 3, this one has a denominator of 5, I can't compare them the way they're written right now. What I have to find is a common denominator, a denominator that they can both have in common. And the easiest way to do that is to make our sideways t-charts. So here's what I mean. We write 2/3, and I make me a sideways t-chart. And I'm going to write all my multiples of my numerator first. So that would, and I'm never going to probably go more than 7 or 8 spaces, so let me just draw me some spaces. So my numerator first, my multiples of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And my multiples of my denominator, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Now, why I did that is because by doing the multiples of your numerator and your denominator, you just found a bunch of equivalent fractions. So you just found that 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6, which is equivalent to 6/9, which is equivalent to 8/12, which is equivalent to 10/15, which is equivalent to 12/18. Remember that equivalent means they're equal, they're the same. So all these fractions in this list all mean 2/3, every single one of them. So now let me make a table for 3/5. And I draw my table. Remember, I'm never going to go more than 6 or 7. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So again, what I did was I just found a bunch of fractions that mean the exact same thing as 3/5, my first fraction in the table. So I found a bunch of them that just mean the same thing as 3/5. So now that I have a ton of equivalent fractions for 2/3 and a ton of equivalent fractions for 3/5, now all I have to do is find a common denominator, because if they have the same denominator, I can compare them. So I'm going to start with this 3 right here and see if there's the denominator of 3 down here. Now notice I said denominator, so we're looking at the number on bottom. We are not looking at the numerators. We don't compare those yet. We have to find a common denominator first. So 3. Well, the first one down here is a 5, so there's definitely not a 3. So 6. Nope, no 6. 9. Nope, no 9. 12. No. 15. Yes, this fraction has a denominator of 15, and this fraction has a denominator of 15. So now that I found 2 fractions with the same denominator, now they're really easy to compare. Now I just look at the number on top, that numerator, and I compare those. So this one has a numerator of 9, and this one has a numerator of 10. Well, which one's bigger, 9 or 10? Well, of course the 10 is bigger. So what I do is I go out here beside my table and I put my 2 dots. Because remember, when we're comparing, we put 2 dots by the bigger one and 1 dot by the smaller one. So now I go back up here to my original problem and I say 2/3. Well, right here, 2/3 got how many dots? 2/3 got 2 dots. 3/5 got how many dots? 1 dot. And when I connect the dots, I see that 2/3 is larger than 3/5. So let's try another one. Let's do 2/5 and 4/7. Let's compare those two. So do they have the same denominator? No, they do not have the same denominator. So what do I have to do? I have to make my sideways t-chart. So I'm going to start with 2/5 and make my sideways t-chart. And I know that my denominator goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. My numerator goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And I need to make my other table for 4/7. So let's do the denominator first. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Now I have a bunch of equivalent fractions to 2/5 and a bunch of equivalent fractions to 4/7. Now what am I looking for? Well, now I'm looking for that common denominator, where the denominators are the same so that I can compare them. So let's start with this first denominator, 5. Is there a 5 down here? Nope. 10? Nope. 15? Not a 15. 20? No, not a 20. 25? No. 30? No. 35? Yes. Here's one with the denominator of 35, and here's one with the denominator of 35. Now that those fractions have the exact same denominator, now I can compare them. So I look at them and I say, well, this one has a numerator of 20, and this one has a numerator of 14. Well, which numerator is bigger? Obviously, the numerator 20 is bigger, so I put 2 dots out here. And the numerator 14 is smaller, so I put 1 dot out here. Then I go back to my original 2 fractions, and I'm going to put the comparative symbol between them. So I have 2/5 first. Well, over here, 2/5 got how many dots? 1. And then my 4/7 got 2 dots. And I connect them. Now, sometimes when you're doing this, you may get fractions like 2/5 and 4/10. And you have to compare those. So let's do a table for 2/5, because they don't have the same denominator right now. 5, 10, 15, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8. And then let's do a table for 4/10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 4, 8, 12, 16. So now I got to find a common denominator again. So I start with 5. Is there a 5 down here? Nope. So I got to move over to 10. Is there, oh look, the first one is a 10. So there's the denominator of 10, there's the denominator of 10. So now that I have the same denominator, I can compare the what? The numerators. Now when I look at those, what do I notice about those numerators? They are exactly the same numerator. So what does that tell you about the 2 fractions? That tells you that both of those fractions are equal or equivalent. They represent the same amount that they're talking about. So that's how you compare fractions. That they do not have the same denominator, you have to make your sideways t-chart and find a common denominator so that you can compare the numerators and see which fraction is larger or smaller.